Hi everyone, my name is Adriana and welcome back to the Lunar Ascension channel. All right, I am so happy to be here right now. Kind of nervous doing this, sharing my story. I think this is the right time. I intended to do this a few days ago, but some things came up and I only had time today. And I trust divine timing. So, yeah, I think everything has a reason. So, yeah, today's the day. So, I want to start by sharing that I was a very, very creative kid. Like, I loved drawing, writing, I loved reading. I loved reading. I have South Node in Pisces, so I really was that child that enjoyed everything related to creativity. But I was also raised under a very strict parenting style. My parents are very religious, so they did everything with the intention of serving God. And this for me was really hard to understand, even as a kid, because I felt very unhappy. I felt very restricted. So, so dealing with these types of restrictions when it comes to self-expression was always an underlying theme in my life. I wasn't able to develop my true personality. So I was very sad as a kid. If you're hearing something like biting, this is Lilo, my bunny. She's in her crazy time because it's nighttime here in Portugal. I'm from Portugal, by the way. And this is the time when bunnies wake up. So she's in her crazy time. I'm gonna introduce her to you guys at the end. I'm just gonna let her play for a bit. So if you hear some noises, it's her. All right. So yeah, I don't know. I always dealt with restrictions. I don't know. I was pretty chill as a kid, but at the same time, if someone provoked me, I would get into fights, especially with boys. Not with girls. I was always looking for girls' attention. Like I want to fit in with girls, but I wasn't able to because I was like, I wanted to be a boy. I hated being a girl, but you know, I did want to fit in the girl group. And I have dealt a lot with criticism since I was a little kid. Like, I think this was a challenge for my parents actually, because every time they tell these stories, they're like, we don't have any justification for this. But, you know, every time you came up with a story, something written or something, some paintings, you were so good that people they wouldn't believe it was you. They would come to us to ask us if we had helped you. I don't know if I was that good, but there's no excuse for that kind of criticism. But it was something like a pattern. That was a pattern. Like people would come to my parents with my writing and ask them, did she do this alone? They were like, yeah. And, they always tell a story. They open up a writing contest in school, and I wrote a poem, a big poem actually. I was in the 5th grade, I think, and I submitted it, but the library didn't submit it to the national contest because they wouldn't believe me or my parents that I have done that poem all by myself. And my parents got really mad, like, she did it in front of us in the kitchen. We saw her doing it. It was all coming from our imagination. But yeah, those kind of things kept happening throughout my childhood. Like people kind of putting me on the back of the room. And, that hit me really hard. Even today, talking about it, I just want to rescue that kid because it was really tough on me. And I got bullied a lot. A lot. Like I got not only verbally. So, yeah, I suffered with bullying since the maybe fourth grade, fifth grade, until I was in, my first year in college, actually. So yeah, there's a lot of feeling that, of course I'm crying, I'm a Cancer moon. There was a lot of feeling that I couldn't fit in. And that explains my Chiron in the first house. So, and my Libra rising, actually, because, that turned me into a person that wanted to fulfill everyone's expectations of me. And I was raised under this philosophy, this religious philosophy, that happiness is something frugal, superficial. It's not something that the soul should search for. You should search for service and service to God. So I never had a light pointing to me. And when I did just, existed and tried to express myself, people would just bash me. Even I was a kid and people would do this. And it was pretty violent. Like, they were ruthless. They were like, no way she did this. I don't know, there is no logical explanation. And good thing there's not a logical explanation, because I had to come to that realization later in life so I could make my peace with it. Like, some things are just meant to happen. Some experiences are just meant to happen. But yeah, I grew up being very sad. I was depressed, actually. I was a depressed kid, a depressed teenager, and I was depressed, most part of my life. And of course, I developed this wanting to become a psychologist, because I always wanted to help everyone else, right? So psychology was something that, I fell in love really easily. And you know what? I actually had an experience with a really bad experience. I was in the 7th grade, and there was a group of boys that were hitting me and were bullying me, and I went to make a complaint. I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna complain. I don't care if they think that I don't care anymore. I just wanna. Am I going to get into fights every day? That doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna just let the adults solve this. And so I was very mature, and I was like, you know what? I don't have to deal with this. And I made a really good choice at the time to go to the principal. Oh, it's fun to revisit these stories. Oh my God, it makes so much sense, because Aquarius is my 5th house. Oh, this makes so much sense. All right. Okay, I'm aligned. And so I went to the principal to file a complaint or whatever. It's not filing a complaint, but well, tell on them. And he sent me right back to the psychologist from the school. And I was sobbing. I was crying and saying that I had enough. I was getting into fights in the classroom, and my dad was being called to the school and to know about this, to discuss what to do with me. But I was always defending myself, so yeah. So I went to the psychologist and I was crying, sobbing. I had a running nose that was running all over my face. And she didn't even offer me a tissue. I asked for one and she was like, I don't have any. I was like, okay. So I was there telling my side of the story. And the only question that she asked me was, well, what are you doing that it's provoking them to address you in that way? And I remembered having the same reaction as I'm having right now. I was just silent. I was just, thinking, this mother. And on that day, I decided, I'm going to be a psychologist and I'm going to be so much better than her. But yeah, they called my father again to go to talk to the principal again. And I never saw my dad so furious. When I got home from school that day, he was sharing, like he was screaming, saying that I went to the principal and this guy tells me, well, you have to understand that Adriana is different. So it's normal for her to be mocked. Because I was a redhead. This is real. And I remember, so my father went to war, to the colonial war. And it used to be this really violent guy that, went to religion to figure himself out, right? He was very, very, very upset. Like, the audacity that this guy has to say something like this, that she's different because she's a redhead, that these things are normal and usual because she's unusual. So I grew up in this environment, and of course, as a teenager, I become such a freaking rebel. Like, no one could tell me nothing. And when I was very young, I had some experiments that I wouldn't recommend, because I was also so innocent and so depressed that anything that bring me some kind of excitement was a good idea. And I had some really bad relationships, and it was only when I moved town to go to university that everything changed. I was on my own and able to do anything. I didn't have my parents not telling me not to paint my nails because I wasn't allowed to paint my nails. I wasn't allowed to go to the movies, to the cinema, because I could die. And what would be my justification to be watching a movie? This is funny now, but it was not funny at the time. It was not funny. My parents were like, my mother especially was like, what if you die while watching a movie on the movie theater? What are you going to tell God when you reach heaven? That you were having fun? And this sounds ridiculous, but it was. And it was so hard for me to make friends and talk about this because they were like, no way that's real. And it was real. It was very real. And the community we were, well, I was, um, religious community was so terrible for me. They hated me. They did everything to tell on me if, because wasn't allowed to speak because I was a woman. So if I made some question about, well, about the teachings, I would get in trouble, and they didn't like me at all. So I was bullied, like a lot. When I hit 18 and went to college, everything changed, like I was saying. And, well, that's when depression hit me really hard. I was on my own after a really bad breakup from a really bad relationship. And I had all the liberty that I never had. So there was a lot of drinking, a lot of other things that I don't think I need to mention, but you can guess. And my saving board at the time was my boyfriend. And I didn't want to get into a relationship at that time because I didn't want to bring anyone into the chaos. But I met Mikael at that point, and we were getting to know each other. And, that relationship, forming that relationship, really was my literal saving board. He's right there, by the way. That's Lippy. That's Lippy Monkey. I was living alone in a studio, and alone turned into feeling lonely, and not fitting in turned into I'm not worth it. I was not good enough for my parents. I was not good enough for religion. I was not good enough for God. And I was not good enough to have friends that understood me. And of course, I thought that life wasn't worth it. And this is my sun in the 8th house. This is my sun in the 8th house, like going through life crisis. And it was pretty bad. I'm laughing now, but it was pretty bad. I had feelings of unaliving myself. Those were thoughts that I had every day for years. Oof, I didn't know this was going to be so cathartic. I don't even remember what happened during, especially 2 years of my life were just a blank space of just existing. Because I was in a college that I didn't want to be. I wanted to exchange universities, but I couldn't. So that delayed my, delayed me from taking this degree. Meanwhile, my relationship with Mikael grew up to something really beautiful, evolved to something more than just dating. And I've got to, experience and watch him grow as a man. And that was very inspiring because I didn't trust men. And now I know how to trust people without a gender association. I actually had to hide our relationship for 6 years from my parents, from my family, because I wasn't allowed to date someone that didn't belong to that religion. So that was really tough on my mental health, but ultimately it made this relationship very strong, and we're actually engaged now. And we have a beautiful story, and we've learned a lot from each other. I can tell you now that he saved my life. It was like my guardian angel just fell from the sky, and while other people were criticizing me, he was like, "Oh my god, you're so awesome. Like, I wish I could talk like you and express myself like you." And I was like, well, this is new. And this was the time that I started looking into detaching from this religion and start learning about other forms of faith and spiritual knowledge. And I started getting into astrology, and I fell in love with astrology. I mean, I love astrology. I got to move to my boyfriend's town, which is Porto, where I am today with him. And I love this town. I always wanted to live here. And that really helped me heal. After being here and in a good university, I really enjoy my university. I love my teachers. They're mostly women that are psychologists, mothers, spouses. They're just amazing. I love them. I had some space to breathe. I told my parents about the relationship, and that was a whole nother crisis, but we're here now, and everything it's good. You know, they don't accept it, but they tolerate it, and they kind of support us now and are helping us with getting married. And yeah, I'm very thankful for that. I put it all behind, the secrets, the struggling, and I focused on myself. And let me tell you, first house, perfection years, and second house, perfection years, they really are amazing. It's like you really get to know yourself again. And yeah, for the first time in my life, I'm feeling happiness. I'm feeling at peace. I'm feeling like everything is just in a flow state. And, I'm still learning astrology, and astrology is something that you never stop learning. So that actually brings a lot of fulfillment because I always have something to grab. I'm finishing my master's degree in psychology, and I'm so happy about it because it takes some maturity to understand some concepts in psychology. So that time that I had to process mental health, what that means, and how you can truly help people, it all came to my aid. And yeah, I'm here now. I'm understanding why my parents are the way they are. They have their own defense mechanisms, and now I can see them for who they were really trying to be. They were really trying to protect me. They were so desperate to protect me from the world that they did the exact opposite. And now I can understand them, and I can forgive them from this place of understanding. This is not my whole story, but I think this is a good way to start. I know there are a lot of people out there, especially from my generation and Scorpio's generation, that we were beat up. Like, we were made to think outside the box. Like, we were forced to take better ideologies. And, this weirdness and not fitting in, that's the new fitting in. Because fitting into structures doesn't work anymore. That doesn't work anymore. It's those old patterns are dying, and we are free to come out. Finally, we're free. We're free to speak. And I know this freedom is not allowed to everyone in the world, but if you have this freedom, be grateful. Because if it wasn't for this freedom that, previous generations conquered for me to have right now, I wouldn't be able to share my story with you. And I'm actually thankful for everything that happened to me. It made me so much wiser, much more wise. It made me appreciate life, and it made me notice the unnoticeable, and made me fall in love with the people that no one is looking. They don't have followers, so they're not relevant. Well, I think those are the most relevant people. Like if you're out there and you are a content creator and no one is watching your content, first of all, leave a comment. I want to follow you. And second of all, I love you. You are my inspiration. The ones that, pop on my feed every day, and they don't have as many views as those popular content creators. I love you. You are the ones that I look up to. I am your biggest fan because you are showing me persistency and what is to be true to yourself. So I think sharing this with you guys, well, it's really opening up. I hope that it made sense. I don't know. I was very emotional, so I'm gonna edit this and cut the crying out because, oh my God, I cry a lot, and I have moon on the 10th house, so I cry in front of everybody. I just put it out there. I don't care anymore. So yeah, I wanted to talk to you about psychology and my relationship with psychology and astrology, but those things are for next videos. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about myself and instigate you and inspire you to do the same. Share your story now. Now it's the time, really. I'm here to hear it, so be brave. This is a time to be brave. I think the worst is behind us, and that we have a brilliant future ahead of us. And this sounds very hopeful in a world that seems like it's falling apart, but I feel like this is the time to really build beautiful things from the ground up. So yeah, well, I hope that this wasn't too much. And well, if you liked it, leave a like, subscribe. If you want a reading from me and Sarah, we work for 10 at 10 Astrology. So if you want that, I will leave a link below to get a reading from us. So that would be really cool if you did that. We have a special way of connecting to the chart. So yeah, well, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, wait. You have to see Lilo. I promise you Lilo, so. Okay, this is Lilo. My perfect girl. All right, now I'm done. I'm just gonna enjoy some Lilo time. And relax. Okay, bye. See you in the next one.